I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll probably modify our agenda slightly, so we'll push off on this election of officers until we get more people here. That'll be a good thing. Or we'll see, but we'll do that. I did have approval of bylaws. I know you have sent me some comments. Does anyone else have any comments on the bylaws that have been sent?
I agree with these edits whenever I was reading through them.
I think the only thing I can think of in the thing I sent out that was more of a question than, hey, we should change this is, should we have the opportunity for people to submit information anonymously if they need to in some cases, or should we require like information and address? I didn't know.
I think we could get, leave it as an option that they could go to one of the board members and provide the information, and then we wouldn't necessarily have to, so we can add that in there.
So they could go directly.
Right. Right, and that way you still know who it is, but
Sure.
we don't have to.
We have a way to reach out.
Sure, right.
But like if they're worried about getting fired for reporting
Sure,
something and
yeah.
they want to be anonymous, like that would be my major concern.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of go both directions on that in like the city and the county. So for nuisances, the county makes you put your name down.
Right.
The city says, you can be anonymous. We're always a little afraid that someone will just start lobbing bombs anonymously at folks so, but yeah, in this case, I think, we can add that into the bylaws, and then we'll send them out in a final form and then get them approved at the next meeting. If you want to type something, or I can, in that section is,
Okay.
we can do that. Okay, so we'll move that, the approval to the next meeting, but we'll add that to it, plus the other comments we have. So we had a list of things that we talked about last meeting, and if you want to look over that and see if there was, I think a couple that weren't here, there were some things that you thought you wanted to add to. And I can add a little bit to some of our, at least on the health related side. So the state of Indiana has passed this bill, Senate Bill 4 on the public health initiative maybe. But in that, the county has the option to opt in or not, but it does have some options for expanding the health services to folks in the county. And we've been talking about, Medicare for dentist services, and that, I don't know that for dentist services was particularly brought up, but it was talked about in kind of Medicare arena. So I think I was like, wow, I mean, this could be something that we've kind of talked about, but maybe we can gather some more information. I'm pretty sure in looking at all the information, sometimes you wonder, is it as good as it sounds? Sometimes there's funding there, but then they're waiting. There's some things that might happen if you take the funding, and as we've looked into this, I don't see anything, at least yet. So I tell you what we'll do is the Jefferson County Health Department Director is coming to the commissioner meeting next, but I'll have her come to our meeting next and explain what she's seen in it, because it is more going to impact her role. There are some core services that you have to provide. I'm pretty sure we already provide those. So the additional funding wouldn't be to add services already, but it would be to expand what we provide now. So I'll get her to come in and make sure that's her take on it. And then we can kind of explore some more of those options that we've talked about, about how do we help folks get, and it will, even though it will be just a county service, it still would be a governmental service, so finding the ins and outs on how to get through it, I'm sure are not gonna be as straightforward as some folks would like. It's a government service, you know, we can't do that, it'd be too easy. So, but hopefully we can, not only look at, or talk about some of those services that we might be able to offer in this, with this additional funding, but also, set up a time for, because we wouldn't opt in until in the fall, and the funds wouldn't start until next year, but we have some time to get ready and help folks, let them know about it, let them know how to work and use, I'm sure they're gonna have to register and things like, but how they can get it registered for that and get that, so when things do, are available, they'll know how to get into it and use it, and, so hopefully make that, that transition to some of these other services that people need, a little easier, rather than, you know, 6 months later, oh, we've got that, oh, yeah, we do it, and so not only will publicize it in the county things, but hopefully we'll have some time with folks to let them, and maybe that's, we talked about going to different communities and helping them out, well, maybe that's one of the things that we can do, is have information like this ready to hand out to help them, so. And we talked, I don't know exactly, you know, we talked about some mobile services, if that still may be an option in how we do this, so I think some of it is working with, certain providers. So it may be existing dentists or doctors that are interested in this, because you know, I think we also talked about finding out what are those barriers for dentists and doctors, and so I think that's something else that we can also work on.
I think one thing that I would be interested in discussing as a possibility to add is maybe access to STI testing within the community. I know that that's one of the things that we really had challenges with at Hanover. I know that there is a nonprofit, Choices, that does offer free STI testing. But I do know that there's been a lot of concern expressed about the religious affiliation of the organization, and how at times whenever they're seeking access to care about their sexual health, tying in conversations around religion to that's not necessarily something that they're comfortable doing or interested in doing. And so I know that what we've had to do is find other counties that would be willing to come and offer STI appointments, but I was curious if maybe if there were opportunities to do some kind of free testing on certain, you know, a certain day of the month or something
Sure.
like that. I think that would be worth considering.
Sure, and talking to the health department director, and I'm sure she's got some things that she knows that people come to her already, but, you know, looking at some others, like I said, I know, so in the funding formula, the county has to provide a certain match. I've heard 20, I've heard 40, but I think some of what you're already spending on your health department counts towards that match, so there's probably not gonna be any additional funding needed from the county, which is always a good thing, but the rest would come from the state, and then kind of laying out that plan or program of those other services is really up, I mean, it's up to her, but
Right.
since it's in our name, we can obviously give some input and, because I think it's, I hate to say it's a blank slate, I'm sure she's got some things, but it's not filled completely in.
Absolutely.
So,
One thing I noticed from the list, it seems like some of the things that are on the list would be fulfilled with something like a YMCA, which we don't have in our community. And it seems like it would be a good fit here. So I don't know, like, how do
it's a good
we as a
question.
county,
Reach out and find that out. Yeah, I agree. So I think, I can try to talk to, cause I know Clark and, Switzerland County both, and Scott have them, and talk to some of their officials to see how they went about. I know they did come and, there was some, there were those that didn't want a YMCA to come in because it would impact businesses, businesses. So, but
So more nonprofit model wasn't welcomed
uh,
in a sense, or
yeah,
it was kind of pushed out in a sense.
well, I think the YMCA was like, we want people to want us to come in here, and when people said, well, we don't want you to come in, it's like, fine, we've got other people that do, and so they did. So,
And a lot of the like listening sessions I've been going to around the community with like Bethany Legacy Foundation and things like that. I've heard a lot of calls for, we need something for kids to do. We need places for people to go after school. We need more engagement, more activities. And it seems like that's where it's at. I mean, I see my nieces and nephew like joining sports team with the YMCA and going there to have fun and going to their pool, and they have climbing walls and things like that sometimes. So it just seems like a good fit. Maybe it wasn't in the past, but I think it's definitely worthwhile because I think it would fill a lot of gaps that we're looking at.
well, I mean, a lot of the things that we've talked about, it would do. I mean, not just then, but overall, I mean, it would make Jefferson County a nicer place to be. It would have those things. So, yeah, I'll reach out to those counties that have them and see how, if it was anything that the county government had to do, or if then, I guess then it's going out to YMCA organization and see what their thoughts are.
Well, we've been to YMCA's in other counties because we can't access a lap pool. When you're training for like a triathlon or something like that, like it's hard.
Mhm.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That wasn't me.
Rumor
Just
has
know
it,
about it. Someone I know.
Okay, well, that's a good point. And like you said, there were some of those things that were there. And it does give you I mean, I think a venue for a more, family kind of oriented.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm sorry, to
No, no.
interrupt you. As you were talking, I was thinking about, the family aspect. So I actually serve on the board of YMCA in Louisville.
Hey, all right, why am I taking this?
So as you're talking, I'm thinking, yeah, so we can work on that. I don't know about here. I don't know about any here in the state, because all my affiliation is in Kentucky.
I mean, what you could help is just some points of contact that we can
Yes.
reach out and talk to it.
Definitely, I can do
And see how we
definitely
at least start that conversation.
do that. Yes.
But I mean, on one hand, you think, well, do they look at the population and they'll have, they don't try to, it's not Dollar General where they saturate the area. But they try, I mean, since I have YMCA in Scott County and Switzerland County, is that too many, or would they be interested in?
Good question.
We can demonstrate a need for it.
Right,
Yeah, definitely. I can add some questions.
okay.
And YMCA workers, they're not volunteers, they're actually paid workers, aren't they?
Yes.
Which would make a difference as far as staffing, because I know we do have the Boys and Girls Club here, and they offer a lot, but it's all volunteer. And that makes a difference, when you don't have people to volunteer. And I know they offer lots of programs for the kids after school, including tutors, mentors, and sports, but you have to have volunteers. People. Mhm.
And maybe that's where some of our early conversations go, is to talk to some of them and say, are there ways to either expand what you're doing to include some of these things, or is it, I mean, if a pool is the kind of the biggest thing that you see that's not around, but I don't know if there's anybody in any of those organizations that are interested in it. But I mean, there are other things out there, but I mean, physically, that's one of the things that kind of stands out. Not many schools, I mean, there are a couple, but that's it, there are a couple. Sorry, I just, 2 schools about it, you know?
And it's the fact that it would be more accessible to a wider group of
Yeah.
people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think their memberships are really like low cost
They are.
and maybe subsidized in some
Yeah, I
cases.
was gonna say, if cost is a factor, there's a way that we can make that not be an issue.
I remember going to after school programs and stuff, so like, I also think that if there's the deficit of activities for youth, like.
Yeah. I did some lock-ins. I have really good memories.
Anything else on the health related? Like I said, we'll have, I'll get Lindsay Warren, the Jefferson County Health Department Director, to be here next month, and she can give us her kind of thoughts on this Senate bill. Like I said, I'm pretty sure you look through it, you study it, you try to decide, is it something the county would want to opt in? And so far, everything's been very positive, so it looks like it.
I think I would second the transportation assistance. I'm on some groups that are trying to help people in the community, and I'm seeing lots of people talking about not having transportation to be able to go get groceries or to be able to get themselves somewhere.
Yeah.
So I would elevate that, I think, the priority list as something that is probably essential at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, we have those thoughts. Is it expanding catch a ride? Is it a whole new service? Is it, well, so I think it's trying to, who do you start those conversations with? Maybe catch a ride is the first one to go talk to, since they already have kind of cover the area. How do we expand, or would they be interested in expanding? I know what's gonna happen, more money, but that may be, provide that service, it may be something that we can. Maybe we think it's worth to have someone from Catch a Ride come and talk to us.
And I mean, it might help enlighten us more about the program, and
And
then help us figure out if we need to do more research about what other communities are doing, or is there a way to like attract more taxi or Uber or ride apps here?
Red sharing, was, or we need to meet.
The independent sort. They're right, was that? We built well, leased, park and ride place in Henry, but. Yeah, it's gonna be, the guy, the business next to it is expanding, so we got, there's have a little discussion, but we'll just have to talk to the owner and see if he can have a discussion.
On the human relations side, if we're moving to that,
Sure.
if you want a community guard, contact me.
Mhm.
I'm working on.
I know we looked at one spot, it was just not a good spot. Do you have any other
I am
locations?
very close to breaking ground on the one that I did soil samples for the very first meeting, so. We are technically in a partnership, but waiting to sign a garden agreement with the Calvary Church.
Okay.
Great, because they already have a lot of people walking through their property to get to Aldi. From like residential estates, so we think it's gonna be a great location as a sharing garden where anyone can just come and get food. And it's probably gonna be small to start because it's late in the season, but we're hoping to talk about expanding it in the future, so there could be other locations like that.
I've had some discussions with Hanover, not necessarily on the garden side, but on the farmer's market side, the same park and ride lot that sits there. They're all empty. They're talking about doing farmer's markets
Yeah,
and doing it there, and you've got the house in there.
yeah.
Everything. It's outside of 56, 62 becomes that you could go past that. So, yeah, okay.
So more of that.
Yeah. I don't know that, as the Hanover Community Garden, are they gonna have like, produce at that garden, or is it just?
I don't know personally, I know that when I go by there, when we go run by there, they are growing, I mean, every day.
There's somebody
They're
Yeah, raised beds.
Yes,
Put
it
in,
looks phenomenal, they have a,
Or a gazebo type of.
yeah.
Yeah.
they're getting their infrastructure together for sure, I don't know.
And that's also where the baby foxes, but.
Yeah, that's where the baby foxes
So
are.
they're kind of smart, they know exactly where to go.
But yeah, they're putting some stuff that looks like beans or something, and so they're getting started, I
So
don't
they're
know
gonna,
their
they're
exact.
gonna do some produce, I didn't know if it was just gonna be.
Yeah, I think it is produce, and they're gonna have probably pollinator plants too. I'm not sure if they're a sharing garden or if they're having plots that people can take to.
I thought that there was an intent for it to help subsidize needs of a food pantry.
Okay,
And so
That is a part of it.
okay, great.
I know Katie Lo Schneider is, she's my person I've been talking to about it. And so she's pretty in the know, and I could get clarity on that.
Okay. I think, like you said, it's probably gonna have to start small. And then as people see the success of them, and I want one close to me, and, so, I mean, I don't know that, when we first started talking, we were trying to find a piece of property that the county owned or something that was available like that, but partnering with someone else is a very good thing to.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the biggest challenge, because just to say, can we use a piece of your land for just anybody to come over and do whatever they want?
What?
It's kind of
Are you gonna be
hard,
there when they're there? Plan on.
so, At their own risk. Have a fun. But, yeah, it's kind of a hard sell, but I hope that the initial one that is in Hanover and the one that we're
Mhm.
hoping to move forward with like this week, the next week or so, will be a good example. And some of the schools are starting them. I've got a few people in the community who are really interested in making gardens happen. So yeah, talk to me if you want a garden. I know people. I'll make a note that you'll follow Katie, so we'll get a little more info.
I can do that.
I think, as we see and learn as these things are developing, that it's gonna make hopefully the next one a little easier than the first one.
Yeah.
And, I didn't reach out to the compost company, I will, the one there by 65 and 256 there, I know they've got mounds of, like I said, new mountains are forming on the west side of 65, but for, I'm sure as people have kind of done spring cleanups in their yards, there's some things that need to be composted or disposed of. And most of the times the transfer station would take normal household things, but not trees and limbs and grass and all that stuff, so. Anyway, we can kind of, look into that. Any more thoughts? Quarterly, twice a year, once a year?
I think at least twice a year.
Get started and then.
Yeah, to start with, I would say twice a year, and I say that because we have that one season of just storms and rains and high winds. And the first of the month you get it cleaned up, and then
Next.
2 months later, you got half a tree missing and like all the limbs, it kind of looks like the Wizard of Oz has gone through your backyard. So,
Okay.
So what was that, quarterly or?
I'm thinking at
Twice
least,
a year.
at least twice a year.
To start with, I think that'd be good.
I would think fall,
did.
like towards the end of fall, when people are trying to get rid of the dead leaves. And, you know, and the branches would be a good time, and then the beginning of spring would be probably another good time. Because that's when, you know, like from the snow and then from the winter rains and from the heavy frost and the ice that, you know, you don't think of limbs breaking till the snow's gone, you're like, well, where'd this limb come from? And it's not really a limb, it's like a log that's in your backyard.
Well, like April and October or something.
Yeah. And also, you know, because it would prevent people from burning, so you wouldn't have that, where people are burning leaves, because like this time of the year is not, it's when you would want to burn, but for people with seasonal allergies, the minute they do it, you start sounding like this.
Pollen is high
Yeah.
or very high, if you pick.
I'm so grateful for this time of the year. I love summer and spring and fall.
Almost like we're actually having a spring this year, you know? I mean, it seems like sometimes you have like a week of this in between weather and then it's into summer, but I mean, it looks like it's gonna be a.
It was, on the recycling section. There was a recycler on 62 near the highway department. Are they still there?
Well, I think what I've heard is that the building that was, used to have, it was secondhand furniture and then it was like display furniture. He's got the building now and he's gonna expand his recycling there at that building. And I'll reach out to Aaron Bell, the one that's out at the JPG, the Southeast Indiana Recycle District director, get him to come in to maybe help us know how to spread the information that he has about his recycling programs that are already ongoing. And I think, it was last weekend, one of these weekends in May was, you know, they have hard recycle item day. And it, like, you could take 4 tires and for no cost, and they let you recycle, you know, and then there's computer stuff and, some other things in the year, so, but,
That's helpful.
yeah, just let people know about them.
Help advertise,
Mhm.
like social media and all that.
So, I will, make sure I take care of that.
Sounds like y'all had an interesting discussion about autism.
So she talked, I mean, kind of in those minutes about having an event sometime this summer. And, so ask, Amy if she was reached out to her, because Cammy was the one who invited her to the meeting, and she, you know, just to provide some, I mean, kind of the awareness thing, but let some folks know, and specifically, she talked about the sheriff's department, the deputies and the jail officers and things like that. But, I think it would be good for other people as well, just so they have, a little bit more understanding of what sets folks off and what, you know, what doesn't. And so if they see some signs, they know, yeah, me doing this is not going to calm the situation, it's just gonna make it worse. So, yeah, I think that'd be a good thing. And, mental health first aid, that's another part, of this Senate bill, and then there's also a mental health bill separate from that, that also has some opportunities there to investigate, so, we have a representative from the governor's office. I may have him look at his calendar and see if he can come in and give us a little more background on a couple of these new laws to see what, most of this won't happen until next year, but at least we can start getting that information together and just like you said, get it out to folks, social media and stuff like that, to let folks know what are some of the resources that are gonna be available. So,
There's one thing at least I would like to maybe add to the list,
sure,
since I was absent.
no, you were absent, you were in Colorado, enjoying.
No, it's Utah.
Oh, Utah.
I was sleeping on the ground.
Well, okay,
Doing great.
because you were sleeping on the ground, we'll let you put something in.
I needed a vacation. But it was fun. I think the one thing I would add, which is, good,
Mhm.
it just came up this week, so it's, I guess, good that I waited. One of the transportation issues, that came up in this community group that is trying to help people out, was that somebody needed a ride to the airport. Because they don't have transportation, and so I was like, hey, I can give you a ride to the airport. And, in that conversation of like setting up all the details, I looked up their Facebook and, so I could see like what they looked like, so I knew who was getting in my car.
They were strangers nonetheless, but you knew what the stranger looked like.
Make sure I get the right person. And I saw that on their profile, they listed themselves as, being trans, and I was like, oh, so I typed back and I was like, oh, well, just by the way, my pronouns are she, her. And they replied, and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for using pronouns, that makes me feel so much safer. And then I was like, oh, you don't feel safe. And I feel like as far as human relations goes, feeling safe is like a big deal in the community. And that maybe we should like look into ways to make people feel safer, about gender identity and things like that. To see if we can help with programming or community discussions or, just kind of roll that around, have some listening sessions maybe.
Because I think we've come up with ideas, oh, this would make you feel safer when, and I really wouldn't do anything for them, so finding out what are some of those things.
Yeah, I think that would be a big step. Maybe we could reach out to like PFLAG or something and, maybe invite them to have like a separate meeting with us, just with them. So we could have a bit of a listening session, so we can try to figure out what some action steps we could take to help out with that kind of fear attached to being who they are.
I want to echo that too, but I think that in a lot of different identities, that challenge exists too. Like I thought it was really telling whenever I was working with students that are part of the Hanover College Black Student Union, and how part of what they were trying to do was organize some kind of way that they could have formal carpooling to Walmart, because going to Walmart by themselves as a person of color is something that was
Traumatic for them.
Yeah. And I think it's, you know, a few of them have experienced incidents of bias, but I think a lot of it too is these are people that are new to our community, oftentimes coming from other counties, and there is a reputation of a clan affiliation within Madison and those things too.
Sure, and
Yeah.
I think, something said, not intending it, but because of that already there, so, yeah. Well, I mean, if it's just with them or with, I don't know how we can expand that to others, but those kinds of listening sessions, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. So,
I think it's a great idea.
I'll make the, both of those things. Is there like, would this be like a listening session opportunity as well? Or do we have like specific
I think it'd be good to listen first.
Okay.
I think it'd be better to the only way you're gonna understand, you know, because you have older groups that would have no idea what, if someone said, well, this is my pronoun, they would look right at you and be like, well, this is my adjective. You know, because that is a different, it's, you know, you have to think, you know, we have such a diverse community that they would not necessarily understand, not pinpointing people by any means, but I know I've had my younger cousins say things to me, I was have to stare at them like they're in the moon. They're like, what are you saying? And have I gotten older? And when did this happen? I don't remember that happening to me. And then when they tell me, I'm like, oh, well, this is what we used to say instead, you know, and so I think listening would be the best way to learn is to first listen. And I think that'd be the best way to help someone, because if you can't help someone, if you don't know what's going on.
Sure, I think far too often we think we know
Yes.
and try to do something, and when in actuality, that's not.
And until you actually walk in a person's shoes, you really don't know, you can only empathize, you know? So I think I think it'd be great if we could have a listening session. And, you know, non-opinionated listening session, just tell us.
Mhm.
Tell us how we can help, tell us what you're feeling, you know, tell us what you want, what you're going through.
I'm trying to think of how to word this. Because it definitely makes sense, I think, definitely Black community, but should we also consider having listening sessions for basically what we consider any racial minority group in our community?
Or BIPOC, if you can use
Or
that
BIPOC.
term.
Okay, I can use BIPOC.
Black indigenous people of color, but also including, including members of the LGBTQ community as well.
Great.
Hispanics and population is growing in the county, and but I can pull it off the wall if you want.
Oh, no.
I'll do it on the wall. I do every once in a while, just becomes, all right, fine, we know you're. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, setting up those over the summer and if it's easier in different locations, and that's, you know, it's being open to that, because we tell them the Jefferson County Public Safety Center, they'll probably just stay like.
Or it would even be a good time, like when the students first arrive. You know, once
Well,
they're
for
there.
students, yeah, I mean, I
Or
think
like
that
if we're
would
gonna
be,
do with students, you know, if we do it on their turf, on their comfort level and their ground. And once, you know, they've gotten to the school, moved in, acclimated a little bit.
sure.
And
give them a
then,
little bit of-
you know, wear your welcome wagon.
And if you hit, you know, if you hit them up before they've even kind of been around town, they're like, all right, what have I gotten into? What do you,
Yeah,
What do you
that's
set
an
me up?
indication that, okay, something must be wrong.
really? So,
I think the best way to identify this board as a resource is to have a face-to-face meeting rather than just to say, this is it.
Why does it exist?
Yeah.
What do you
Sign
do
the
for
form
me?
and submit it to
Yeah.
the commissioner's office.
And if we're all able to, you know, like I said, time frame, but we're all able to be there, then they can also put a face. So
Mhm.
if they're at Walmart and they're like, "Oh, I know her, you know, or I don't feel comfortable over here, but I remember him. And I'm going to go over there and I'm gonna stand beside where he's at, you know, but they can put a face with
Sure.
an organization and with the name.
And I think sometimes that's really, that could be all that it would take, is to have someone they recognize that they
Yes.
could, you know,
Connect with.
right?
That might need to be an annual thing if it is specifically for the college, since they cycle every year.
I mean,
But I think initial ones in the community too, with our permanent community. Makes sense as well.
sure, I mean, I think both. Having those sessions with both, you know, I mean, it may be good, you know, that first, I know they do some things the first 2 days of college, just to say, hey, here we are, and then go back. I don't know, a couple of weeks later, 4 weeks, I don't know, a month later, and have some of the listening session, but at least kind of introduce what we're trying to do and say we're gonna come back, so. hang on, we're gonna listen. Reach out to Amy about Laura Wall was her name,
Mhm.
onto the discussion, to have her kind of give us an update on if she's planning to do something, because I think that would be probably, just like we've talked with the gardens and everything, let's start small, and then expand that, and I think as this state bill on, medical, on health would be another thing that we might be able to start providing some information on as that gets closer, so that may be something we can kind of do at a meeting like that. But it's, I don't know if we're ready to say, okay, what exactly is gonna be offered, but that would be something that would, maybe just a good time to get input on what should be some of the things that the county offers. Alright. Would ask for audience input. Got anything, Bob? You wanna add anything? You have a free weekend this weekend, or you got meetings like that?
There's graduation.
Oh, yeah.
Shaw and Madison are at the same time.
Oh,
Figure that one out.
what were they thinking?
Yeah.
Right. We else have anything?
I am curious, if there has been a defining of the relationship between this organization and the Madison Pacific Human Relations Commission. I'm curious because I have, one of my really good friends is on that commission, and I am aware that they are in a identity forming place as well, and didn't know if that relationship is one that would be helpful to be in collaboration whenever drawing kind of
Oh, I think
expectations.
so. Yeah, I mean, if you wanna, if it's, they come to our next meeting, or we go to theirs, or we have a separate one altogether, I think that would be a good thing.
I went to one of their meetings like a year ago
Mhm.
or more after it was passed, by the commissioners to form this. Just make sure they knew and that this was something we were working on and that collaboration was part of the plan. So I think now that it exists, we can start like sending invitations and being more formal about that collaboration.
I do know that, at least that person that I know is interested in having that conversation between the two groups.
I mean, as we started
Yeah.
putting things together, we were too. I mean, I think that's something that,
How often do they meet?
No, I know that, I think she said that their next meeting is in June. I can get that information, email it out to everyone.
they're quarterly, I think, is that?
Yeah.
Got confirmation like that.
Are you in that group? Okay.
He just covers it. So, yeah.
So I guess I forgot what I was gonna say, so I'll stop talking.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll be there eventually.
I mean, you know, if, I mean, I don't wanna put more meetings on folks, I really don't want more meetings either, but, you know, if we have one person that kind of attends their meetings, just to kind of keep those communications open, and they have someone that, maybe they don't have to come every month, but they come, you know.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I know that their scope of what they tend to talk about is mostly like housing type, zoning type conversation.
Mhm.
And so I do think that according to our kind of bylaws and charges, it seems like they're parallel different conversations that might be happening, but
Yeah. And I think, you know, we talked about helping communities, I mean, I think most of them would be in the city. So, at least to get started. I mean, I don't, you know, I mean, would Brooksburg, welcome people to come out and help them? Oh, they would,
Mhm.
they really would, so. And I think down the road, we can do that there, and Deputy and DuPont, but also Madison is part of the county, that's always so.
Rumor has it that way.
Sometimes I think they're more of the county than the rest of the county. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I didn't type it
No,
though. So it's not that
Someone
bad.
will have to wait, watch to the end of the meeting. All right, the next meeting's, June 29th. I will get the 27th clarified, because I said, right now, there's a commissioner meeting scheduled. And then there's one scheduled for the next week, and so I don't know what you're gonna move, if they're gonna move that one or the other one, and I can, I'll let you know. So now, if we're going to change it. Then the 28th of December, I don't know. A
Mhm.
hard day.
That was gonna be kind of,
Yeah. So,
Won't even be
uh,
down.
Just out of curiosity, at the last month's meeting, was there any discussion about people declaring interest in any of the elected positions of this group?
Well, in the meeting last time, I volunteered for secretary,
and then.
but then after the meeting, I emailed Dave and I was like, well, if nobody else wants to, what is the title?
President, chairman,
President, chairman, if nobody else wants it, I could take that one instead and somebody else could be the secretary. I don't think I could swing both of those. But, so yeah, I would happily do either, but not both of them.
So it's just the two.
There's also
Like a
a
vice- yeah,
deputy
Deputy chair.
chair, so if the chair can't
isn't here.
come or fill that role that month, then the vice would take it. So there would need to be communication there in that case. And then was there? I
I
don't
thought it was
remember.
those three that I remembered.
Yeah, I can't remember. And the only other one that would be most often would be a treasurer. I just.
Does the treasurer position come with mine?
We have
treasurers.
Maybe once we start making grants.
Mhm.
And I'm only on the board for a year, so I can, I don't know, figure out how to do this. Then show the next person.
See, I think you're very well versed in it. And since you kind of did spearhead to get it moving and to get the organization,
People are
know.
used to hearing from me.
but I really, I mean, you're so instrumental in that and you're so productive and you're very, you just were very driven. And you did a fabulous job getting it together in such a short time.
Was it
Yeah.
Chairperson.
Chairperson, yeah. I really think that you should bestow that honor, and I truly believe it'd be an honor because, like I said, you really did an amazing job spearheading, getting the people together, finding, talking, uplifting, and letting everyone know like all of everything that's going on, all of the visions, and I think that would be I really think that'd be an amazing position for you to be in.
So you're gonna be secretary if she takes it?
Have you ever seen me type? Have you ever seen me spell?
Spell checks for it. The red line
I was really
underneath.
bad at accepting compliments. That was very nice, thank you.
Well, it was well deserved, very well deserved. Yeah,
I would agree. But gotta make it happen.
yeah, I have to say you're very, very instrumental. I mean, you're very busy. And
I like doing hard things for free.
how would you say you're a real go-getter? Isn't that like a bumper sticker? Real go-getter. Our song.
So the bylaws don't call out anything else, but it does have the reserving the right to select additional officers as it deems necessary.
Okay.
So,
I mean, who knows what we'll need? You might need treasure.
but with money, that
Yeah, and in that role, like, I think the big thing that I think would be good for it, other than, you know, putting together agendas and communication and making sure people, would be like getting our presence online as well.
And in the community.
In the community, I think that's a big thing, and scheduling a lot of meetings.
And is there anything in our bylaws that says that we cannot, you know, go social media ways of getting us out there? You know, whether it be,
I mean,
a picture of everybody smiling, or, or just a little,
Getting a social media page for this board.
yeah, from from Facebook to Instagram, but, I know the Snapchat, but I still do not understand it.
We might need an additional officer for that.
Yeah, social media.
Social media.
Yeah, social media.
But, that would be something maybe to think about.
yeah.
Because
I mean, we
someone
could-
would need to manage.
Start moving into things so that people do know it, and also for people for finding a safe place. It's like if you didn't get to come to one of our little powwows, then, a friend of a friend is like, hey, did you see this on social media? You might want to contact them.
Yeah.
We can also, add a page to the county's website for the board. We'll have to give Sarah some information on what we want on it, but she's well versed in.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Get like a submission form for anybody who like can't come to the meetings,
Yep.
or I think it would be great to have an application for future board members.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to go find y'all. People can kind of put themselves out there and we can like just review, who are you?
Yeah.
And figure out who they are in the application, and then suggest options to the commissioners for approval.
I can say one of the things that I've kind of picked up on from, I'm involved in the leadership Jefferson County cohort that is graduating next Tuesday. One of the things that has been observed both with current college students is I think people respond very well to the personal invitation to do things.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of young adults in Madison that just don't know, like, I'll be on a board if you ask me to, but like, I've never been asked. And so,
Yeah.
And they may not know what is out there, what
And
opportunities
if we
are
can
out there.
email them a link to an application,
Yes.
say, I want you to apply. That might be more effective than me contacting them and being like, hey, I want you to do this.
if you want like a recommendation list, I left like 15 people.
Okay. Awesome.
Good folks. Yeah, I mean, if you have ideas on application, once again, we can get that put up on
Great.
the. And
I have the minutes and I basically, all the action items, all the notes from today, I've just put in blue, and the action items I've bolded. So as you look through the minutes, you can see what the action items are based on what is in bold. We're meeting on June 29th.
Mhm.
And if you guys are not doing anything the weekend before, we're having our first Juneteenth celebration in Madison, Jefferson County, Indiana. Now that it is a national holiday, and it will begin, so I'm kind of, am I doing advertisement, is that what it's called? But but it will, yeah, I'm doing my own little promotion here, and but it will be, it is Juneteenth, and it will be, you guys, exact information on this. There will be a 5K run walk for kids and for adults. And that will be on Saturday, June the 17th, and that will be in the historical Black neighborhood of Madison, which at that one time was a segregated area. So there still is historical landmines there, and those will get pointed out during the run also. And like I said, that one is June 17th. On the 18th, they're gonna have a picnic on the lawn at Lindley Home. And there, they'll have a proclamation by our very own mayor, Bob Courtney, who is absolutely amazing. So we'll have spoken word by, Richie Armand, they'll have dancing and music by the Walnut Street Blues Band, out of Louisville, Kentucky. Should it rain, the venue will be moved to the parking garage there on Broadway. And then on the 19th, which is actually Juneteenth, they're going to be having a documentary at the Historic Ohio Theater. And that'll be from 4 to 6. So, and then there'll be a discussion led by our committee. So if you guys have nothing that you got going on, or you need information about it, just let me know, but that'll be one of the things that,
Hanover's doing something on 19th and so that might be a little. I'm glad you're having some free, yeah, that'd be good.
Is it sponsored by the Friends of Broadway or is there? who is it
actually,
sponsored?
so it's sponsored by, sponsored by the Friends of Lanier Mansion, Friends of Old Broadway, March, the Jen Air, and which is, OES is, Order of Eastern Star. And, then the, Eureka Lodge, number 30. And that is, of course, a Grand Lodge, and, of Freemasons. So, yeah, and both of those, between the Jen Air and the Eureka Lodge, both of those, are historic figures also in the Madison area that help to get rid of the segregation and to bring water to that part of Madison and to open up, Crystal Beach. So there'll be a lot of history, a lot of things to learn and a lot of things to be able to find out.
And if you want your T-shirt with the race, you gotta get registered soon.
Yeah, yes, yes.
There's a deadline.
Yes, the markers though, I think a lot of people will really like, because they didn't know that those things were there, like Gaines Park, and that's where the school, that's when they called color, that the black school was. And then they'll have like markers and signs of various homes along the route, like where, well, Uncle Charlie, but, Charlie O'Banion's home, and then like the Dewdrop Inn, and then, Smith home, and where there was a camp service, so there was a lot of things in that.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do the run, but I'm already volunteering.
Just to see all the markers, yeah,
I'll have to like
go early.
go
and stuff.
early
I'll get
and
real
like
fast.
check it out.
Maybe grab a golf cart and kind of cruise it real
I
fast.
think I'm gonna get the kids registered for the kids race, so.
I think the kids race will be the most fun because I love seeing their little legs and they just go to town. They're adorable.
Anything else?
We haven't done any motions. Do we want to make a motion to adjourn or just say, oh, we're finished?
We can make a motion. Official, and I'll second your motion.
No,
I make a motion
I
that
know,
James
for the
be the
second.
chairman.
Okay, there we go, yeah.
A motion,
And I
James,
second.
yes.
We have all moved.
No, you didn't hear, she said, say it again.
I said, I motion that James Stormer be the chairwoman.
And I second.
Oh,
See,
okay.
I figured you didn't hear. 'Cause
No, I
yeah,
didn't.
okay, yeah.
I was like-
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we probably have to formally vote on that, right? Or, okay, probably the next one. But I'll try to help out in making sure we can have everybody. We'll dig on that.
How many people?
yeah, 5 years and 4.
No, how many on them? Four missing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And,
Dr. Murphy. Oh, we're missing. Candy, that's it. Yes. All right, we'll work on that. Thanks, y'all.
Right.